Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Ministry of Wrestling YouTube channel. My name is Nico, Double V, the Viceroy of Verisimilitude. And man, I'm going to bring some verisimilitude to you today because let me just get this feeling right out there immediately. So, you know, this is a very, very positive review show you're about to experience. All thriller, no filler, all killer, no filler, goated pay-per-view. Easily the best thing I've seen this year so far. Not so much. I know we're only in the month of March, but this was just an exercise in absolute subliminal brilliance, this pay-per-view. We're going to go through the match one by one, so do stay tuned to the end of the video if you want to see how we're going to rank each match, how I am going to rank each match. It's a solo show today. If you are new to the Ministry of Wrestling YouTube channel, please do be sure to subscribe, like the video if you have not done so already. Be sure to hit the notification bell so you know whenever the new content drops on the channel. But yeah, if you like wrestling and wrestling is your jam, then smash the subscribe button, guys, because this is the channel for you. Look, I want to say this, get this out the way right out the bat. The quality of the AEW pay-per-views has always been, this is all opinion, of course, but has always been, for me, of an incredibly high caliber. Has the booking that's led up to the pay-per-views often left a lot to be desired? Absolutely. Too many last-minute matches being thrown in. Has there, over the last 18 months, been prolonged periods of uncertainty, of turbulence, of bad TV in AEW? As an AEW guy, I think I'd be an idiot if I argued otherwise. Of course, it's been difficult over the last 18 months. The one thing that has always been a constant in AEW, irrespective of what's been going on, is that the pay-per-views have always felt special. Case in point, Double or Nothing last year. People said it was bad. And I don't think that's because the pay-per-view was bad. I'd actually go so far as to argue there were 3 matches on that card that were excellent. And I mean excellent. But you've come to a place with these pay-per-views where it's my favorite grading on a curve, but in reverse. The standard has been set so high for what to expect on these pay-per-views that when a pay-per-view is just really good and not great, people perceive it as bad, as was the case with Double or Nothing. From what I've seen, just scrolling through Instagram and Twitter today, sorry, X, people seem to love this pay-per-view. Wrestling is a form of entertainment that is all about spots, moments, pacing, booking, storytelling, incredible feats of athleticism, psychology, crowd reactions, all the things that make it so wonderful. It's a mad milli-millo of emotions being drawn from all sorts of areas that I've just laid out. And the reason I say that Revolution 2024 is goated is because it really, really hit every single beat that you needed to hit. It wasn't perfect, but Jesus wept, it was close to being perfect. Let me get, after that initial rambling, let me get right into the first match here. Christian Cage and Daniel Garcia for the TNT title. Now, a lot of people are arguing, I'm on the fence about it, but a lot of people are arguing that Daniel Garcia is very much, it's his time. It should have been, he should have maybe dethroned Christian. And as I said in my prediction, had you put the belt on Garcia, I wouldn't have been opposed to that. He's got this very, very Bret Hart-like babyface thing about him, whereby he may not be the most out there and exuberant and entertaining man in the world, but he's got this natural ability to get a crowd to love him, to get a crowd to back him. Add to the fact that he's so young and is already such a brilliant in-ring technician, you have to think that the future, he is the future. We are literally watching the future. We're going to be talking about Daniel Garcia for the next 10, 15 years. And this was such a great showing for him. Christian Cage reaffirms once again why he is one of the best heels in the business. I thought it was interesting to start the pay-per-view with this because of all the bangerang matches we've had. I wouldn't have said that this was top tier. There was no bad wrestling on this pay-per-view, which I thought was quite exceptional, but it wasn't the top of the top tier. Normally you want to start a pay-per-view with a big pop. I don't think this was pop worthy, but I thought it was a great technical showcasing of both wrestlers. And the fact that it wasn't pop worthy, I think, speaks volumes to the fact that of the way this whole pay-per-view is booked. Almost like a roller coaster, building and building and building and building and building until the big pop and drop at the end. And no filler, as I said. But let me rate this. Let me rate this one for you right here, because in my opinion, this is as low as it's going to get for me. This was mid-card. We are going to revise our rankings for next year, as I think there's too many here. But yeah, this was what I would call a mid-card match, but a mid-card match of the highest caliber. Okay, moving on to Eddie Kingston and Bryan Danielson. This had so much interesting story built behind it. Remember, I said at the top of the show, there was this lovely mix of both psychology and wrestling prowess and booking and storytelling. This match really did have a bit of everything. You are watching truly one of the greatest to ever do it in Bryan Danielson, who just like a fine wine just seems to be getting better and better with age, man. If you actually, here's what's so interesting about him. If you actually look at a Bryan Danielson trajectory over the course of the last 18 months, he hasn't won that much. He very much feels like a huge hurdle for people to overcome. But when he gets in the ring, he just creates this inescapable truth that he is the standard, he is the bar, he is the validation point that you have to overcome in order to be taken seriously. And that's exactly what Eddie Kingston did here. I very much think we're seeing the end of the Blackpool Combat Club happen here. Because if you look, Eddie Kingston is the antithesis of everything that the Blackpool Club are against. You know, they're all about train harder than everyone, work harder than everyone. And Eddie Kingston, according to them, is the opposite of that. They believe that he doesn't work as hard, he doesn't train as hard, he doesn't present himself properly, yada, yada, yada. Nothing I agree with because I adore Eddie Kingston. But now let's look. Eddie's beaten all of them. So this very personified existence of that which they despise has now overcome them. It might be time for them to actually start looking in the mirror and thinking, whatever we stand for and whatever we're against, we can't seem to overcome. I don't know, man. This may be a shot in the dark, but I actually think you're seeing the seeds of the Blackpool Combat Club falling apart here. Despite there not being any obvious turmoil, the seeds are being planted here. And Kingston overcame Danielson. I was wondering at one point that if they get Danielson to win, he could do one of those stomp his effing head in and then shake his hand when he's unconscious afterwards. So he still fulfills the shake the hand criteria. But no, he did it. He did the thing. And I think that officially, you know, after all of his, he's a bum thing, I actually think this puts Danielson completely back into babyface territory, which means he's now got a very clear run towards, he's now got a very, very clear run towards this final stretch of his career where he doesn't need to go into a match as a despicable heel. He can literally just go in as one of the all-time great wrestlers and put on a great wrestling match without necessarily even needing any huge story build behind it. Danielson is now just a dream match factory. I adored this match, absolutely adored it. And my ranking for this is awesome. What a match we were in for. Okay. Now, the meat factory. That wasn't really meat. It was 50% meat. So you had Jericho, Hobbs, you had Lance Archer, you had Wardlow, you had Dante Martin, Hook, Brian Cage, and Magnus. 50% meat. Still a lot of meat in this match. And they honored that. They very much did the meat collision in this match. Possibly the weakest match on the pay-per-view, this one. Still not a terrible match. It's always fun when you see the big high flyers. like the Dante Martins of this world, doing hippy dippy doo-dah stuff against the big slabs of man smacking meat. But equally, it's amazing when you see the meat hitting meat. It's just so much fun. This does, it fills me with a slither of hope, because Tony Khan has never been the best person in the world at booking the big guys. But I'm hoping on this recent evidence that all might change, because the big man slapping meat here was incredibly entertaining. I do worry about Jericho. If I have to pull one negative in this match, it is Jericho, because he's a loser now. I know it's crazy to say. And Jericho, just side note, if you're new to the channel and don't know me, Jericho is one of my favorite 4 wrestlers of all time. He's on my Rushmore. So for me to say that, from my point of view, quite a big deal. But look, in the last 12 months, Jericho has done this. He's kind of lost relevance. He still has one of the all-time great intros. He's had a storied career. But in his current form, Jericho just loses. Like, that's his thing. He loses. He's completely lost his in-ring ability because, you know, Father Time waits for no man. And he's doing this thing where, in order to stay relevant, he's just latching on to whatever the hot property is at that moment in time. He did it with Ospreay in Wembley. He's doing it now with Wardlow. And he's gonna continue to do it. And I would very much like Chris Jericho to either do his final farewell or rediscover what makes him great, if he's still got that within his wheelhouse at the final age of wrong side of 50. But the match was fun. The right person won in Wardlow. This was very much the not undisputed era, undisputed empire, undisputed kingdom, Adam Cole's stable. It was very, very much their night. Little spoiler for later, but you've seen the pay-per-view now. Yeah, the right man won this. Wardlow won this. I think I'd give this match the All-Star Meat Man Scramble. Yeah, I'm going to give this a mid-card ranking. Yeah, mid-card. So from that, onto a contender for match of the night with, Orange Cassidy and Roderick Strong. Man, Orange Cassidy has been one of the best wrestlers of the last 18 months. Validated the international championship, shouldn't have lost it. And despite his second run not being as good, it's still been one hell of a run. Now more title defenses than any person for any championship in AEW history. Orange Cassidy is certified. He's beyond just being a gimmick wrestler now. The guy is certified. But for those of you who didn't watch NXT Black and Gold, the OG great NXT during the Shock the System era, this was the grandiose return of Roderick Strong. And it was a thing of beauty. I thought this match was fantastic. And I love the fact that he sent the rest of the stable to the back at the beginning. He very much laid a marker down. I got this. Go to the back. This is my time. And boy, was it his time. Orange takes his shirt off. Ribs are taped to living hell. Roderick Strong is a smart wrestler. What does he do? He works the ribs. And the creative ways with which he decided to work the ribs and the back, from backbreakers, Saito suplexes, freaking jackhammers that led into backbreakers, release Germans into backbreakers. Like, some of the dynamics, now we talk about all of the things that this pay-per-view had to offer. Roderick Strong brought purist wrestling in its purest form to shine here. This match was sensational. A contender for match of the night without a shadow of a doubt. And the title changed hands. And I did say in my prediction that the title was going to change hands here, because it's just that time. You need to start slapping gold on this stable now. They got the tag titles. Now they got the international title. And what about Mr. Wardlow? He's going for the world heavyweight title now. It has to be his time, surely. But that aside, this match was incredible. I think I'm going to rank it this is awesome. And I popped quite a few times for this match for some of the spots that Paul Cassidy put himself through. Just eek. And from that, onto a tag team match that, well, I mean, this is essentially, for as far as predictions are concerned, this was the beginning of the end for me. But FTR versus BCC Blackpool Combat Club, a 50-50 booking in the best sense of the word, because you could have gone either way here and it would have made sense. So this is, in the most positive way possible, booked into a corner because there was no clear, obvious winner based on storyline. If you told me FTR were going to win this after what they've been through recently, fine. If you're going to tell me Blackpool Combat Club are going to rediscover being Blackpool Combat Club, and also if you're going to tell me for the purpose of if a certain tag team wins later in the night and become tag team champions and you don't want to do the FTR thing again, then yeah, you don't want to rinse and repeat history. The BCC won. And it's something they haven't really done. I don't believe Blackpool Combat Club have captured tag team gold here. And it actually went, despite the fact that I thought FTR were going to win this, you know, the top guys return and the top guys take out the top stable, arguably. But yeah, Blackpool Combat Club winning makes the world of sense when you actually look at it. They haven't held tag team gold. You got to think that's the trajectory they're on now. This wasn't just a one-off for shiggles. And while, you know, in typical FTR fashion, it started very slow and it lacked a bit of dynamism in the first 5 to 10 minutes. Dax Harwood, I'm sorry, remained stiff as a tree. And I don't mean stiff like that. I mean stiff as in not very mobile. When they get going and when the tag team duality starts coming in with FTR, that's when they really shine. And there was some spots at the end, like there was a Tower of Doom spot that I hadn't seen done like that before, which I really admired. The big rig, which I hadn't seen performed in that manner. So they weren't reinventing the wheel, but they were putting some fresh sugar and spice on some of these spots that really, really worked. And I popped quite a bit. And I'm going to have to say that the FTR BCC, this is awesome. It's a very, very good match. So much so that this is one of the negatives for me. Not the match, the placement of the match. Because we only had one women's match on the pay-per-view. Timeless Toni Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo. The fact that Julia Hart and Sky Blue were in a tag team match on the pre-show just annoys me. Why is the other women's title not being defended on the main card? You could very easily have put the Man Meat Rumble or the Man Meat Battle Royal on the pre-show and actually given another ladies match. But yeah, this is one of my biggest gripes with AEW. The poor booking of the women's division. I also need to throw some shots at the commentary team for this. I love the fact that they were putting Deonna over so much, but they kept on saying, since Deonna's joined, the women's division has become so much better. I'm like, is it just me? Or does that feel a bit disrespectful to the women who have been here since the beginning or who have been here for the last few years and really, really, really grafted and tried to get the division over? All of a sudden, magical Deonna, who's fantastic, by the way. But Deonna shows up and all of a sudden it's, oh, whole new women's division. I didn't like it. I did not like the way the commentators were putting Deonna over at the expense of the rest of the division. It really, really annoyed me. If I was Simon Miller here, I'd be going down. Didn't like it at all. The match was good. I actually think the way that I mentioned just now, the 8-man Meat Mountain Rumble thing, that could have been on a pre-show with the same end result of Wardlow winning. You could have actually, and it would have been nice so that the match isn't perceived as being middle of the card after a big poppy match of FTR and BCC. It doesn't need to feel like a beer break. Like, you need to stop treating the women's matches as a freaking beer break. If you're going to build your pay-per-view the way that TK built Revolution, you know, roller coaster getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, why not start with this match? Just the same way you started with Christian Cage and Daniel Garcia. Why couldn't you start with Timeless Tony Storm and Deonna? You know, if you're going to do a big, the big send off at the end, which we'll get to, you could have started with the two of them and it would have been fantastic. Because just the same way TNA did on their first pay-per-view back, you can start with the women and it can still do bits, Positioning it here after an FTR BCC match, to me, it felt like you were booking a beer break. Not cool. However, the match was very good. Very, very, very good. I would have liked to see more of it. They were limited in what they can do. The right person won. Tony Storm holds on to that title. I think, there's some big money. Monet, I should say. Some big Monet, some boss level Monet that's going to be taking that belt off her quite soon. But this was good, serviceable. Nothing bad to say other than just give me more from the women, man. And yeah, stop putting one woman over at the expense of the others. But I'm going to rank this one. It's a mid-card. Tony Storm Parato is a mid-card match. Now, and to further highlight the fact that it was a mid-card match, you put it after FTR versus BCC, and you put it before this next one. Were it not for the main event, this is match of the night, man. What did I just watch? Will Ospreay versus Konosuke Takeshita. This is not smoke. This is not hyperbole. When Don Callis said these are the two best rope-to-rope wrestlers on the planet, he was not joking. The strings of moves these two went through, the combinations, the transitions, Will Ospreay is a freaking animal. Does he know how to work out of fifth gear? And Takeshita, who I've been saying for years is an untapped source of brilliance, just rose to the occasion. Was this Will Ospreay's night? Sure. But it was just as much Takeshita's. He reinforced, this is why I beat Kenny Omega twice in 1 week. Ospreay won the match, obviously. So his debut was always going to happen. They didn't go full on onto him leaving the Don Callis family. I like the way they're going to take their time with that. So we're going to have a slow burn here. He's probably going to go through each member. But it was a thing of genuine beauty. The only hyperbole was Callis saying this is going to be match of the decade. It wasn't. I would say probably wasn't even match of the year. But I would listen to an argument for why it could be considered that. The problem with Will Ospreay is that all of his matches in the last 18 months have just been so damn good, be they on huge, huge brands like NJPW or AEW, the dog cage match or the match All In, but even down to his matches on smaller promotions like Rev Pro. I mean, I'm sure you've all heard about Ospreay versus Oku. The Ministry were lucky enough to be there live when that happened. One of the matches of the year. Ospreay, just like that, Bryan Danielson, is a match of the year factory. And a huge scoop for you. We met Will Ospreay at Rev Pro for the Oku match. And I asked him, I'm like, who do you want at All In? Ospreay told me categorically, it has to be Danielson. That's the one. That's the final boss. So don't be surprised if you see for a non-title match, unless they put Ospreay at Wembley in a world title match main event, which makes the world of sense. But he wants Danielson. You can take that one to the bank. That's what he said to me directly. But this match, the sequences they went through and the Okada-esque 2.999 kickouts, like when he landed that first hidden blade on Takeshita and Takeshita kicked out at like one, I jumped out my seat. I even got a message from my wife going, could you please keep it down? It was, man, on a wrestling level, this was the best match of the night for me. But you know where I'm going with this if you've seen Revolution. It wasn't match of the night, but on a purely wrestling level, it damn sure was. This was fantastic wrestling of the highest caliber, and I'm going to rank it Fight Forever, as it bloody well should be. Now, up next, a result that I predicted, but now that I'm inherently saddened and worried by, because look, Hangman Page, Samoa Joe, Swerve Strickland. A lot of people thought this was Swerve's time, and I've said in my prediction, had this been a one-on-one, Swerve versus Joe, I'm backing Swerve. Swerve all day. Hangman was inserted into this match in order for Joe to win and in order to protect Strickland so he doesn't have to eat the pin, which is exactly what happened. But Strickland ran riot in this match, didn't he? Oh, dude, the stomps, the kicks, the transitions from grappling to striking. It's so hard story-wise to book an effective triple threat. So much so that you're probably all going to type now in the comments, oh, but what about that? Yeah, the fact that you can reach for one or two amongst the millions of pay-per-views there are is exactly the point I'm making. Because when one's really, really good, it stands out. Case in point was this. This story was built brilliantly, despite the fact that there was some muddied water with the whole Swerve doesn't get a shot. I mean, once we'd confirmed that it was a triple threat, it worked. The way we got to it being a triple threat was dumb as you know what. But yeah, man, this match was worked brilliantly. I don't want to keep saying the word brilliant, but that's what this pay-per-view was. It was just a goated pay-per-view. I can't help it. Here's my concern now, to not be all peaches and cream. Ospreay is here. Jay White is still due a world title. Adam Cole is still due a world title. Okada is about to arrive. Wardlow is now number one contender. Where does Swerve fit in now? Where does Swerve fit in? Because you have to feel the way they're going to book this now moving forward is Wardlow's going to go over Joe, right? Not necessarily, but that's the way I can see it going. And it does really concern me that I don't think Swerve is going to have another shot for at least another 12 months, if not more. In a worst case scenario, if ever. And it may be crazy to say that, oh yeah, but come on, he's organically got over. He's so over with the fans. He's gonna hold gold. I can see him doing something like beating Roddy Strong for the international title. I could see him beating Christian Cage for the TNT title. All of these things are possible. And I'm not saying that he's not deserving. I love this reinvented Swerve Strickland. But my question remains, where amongst your Jay Whites, your Okadas, your Ospreys, your Wardlows, not to mention Kenny Omega will be back at one point, and you got to think he's going to be in that title picture sooner or later. Likewise, MJF. Where does Strickland fit in, and where does he fit in a way that becoming the first African-American AEW champ has power and resonance and doesn't just feel like a token gesture? There's an argument to be made that this was that moment. This was that moment. I don't know where you fit Swerve Strickland in the future moving forward. I'm fascinated to see how it plays out, but I just worry he's about to be pushed right back down the card, and you're going to see him messing around with either Roddy Strong or Christian Cage in the coming weeks. We'll see. The match, though, superb. And I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it, yeah, this is awesome. That's where it belongs. And so we come, ladies and gentlemen, to the main event. We come to the main event. And wasn't it a thing of beauty? A thing of absolute beauty. Now, against all odds, I've actually seen people be negative about this. Sting and Darby Allin versus Matthew and Nicholas, AEW's EVPs, the Bucks. The Young Bucks. I didn't even think they want to be called that anymore. Look, I thought that Sting was losing this on the basis that he's a company man. He's a business. He's a wrestling man. He's a traditionalist, and the sports entertainment that is wrestling dictates that you go out looking up at the lights on your back, putting someone over on the way out. Not so here. And I've seen, not a lot, but I've seen some people daring to say that this was the wrong decision. Sting should have gone out on his back. I thought that would happen for the reasons I just said. Hindsight 2020 being a wonderful thing, I'm obviously going to review and analyze that which I have actually seen and I am reacting to. They absolutely made the right call here. This was physical romanticism in its absolute purest form, considering the storied 38-year career that Sting had, and considering how tragically it almost ended after equally tragically being completely misused by the Fed. That wasn't the way for this warrior to go out. And is there something to be said about Tony Khan marking out hard over a legend like Sting? Yeah, sure. I'm a believer that mark isn't necessarily a bad word. It means that you really, really love something. And Tony Khan, geeky little wrestling fan that he is, absolutely loves Sting. And I think there is something so romantic and so wonderful about the fact that this aged warrior who has literally seen it all, who has literally fought everyone from the Great Muta to Hulk Hogan to John Cena. Yeah, we didn't get The Undertaker, which was a shame, but hey. The guy he's been in every company, your TNA, your New Japan, your WCW, your AEW. He's done it all. He has done it all. He is on my Rushmore of all-time greats. I had to hold back tears at the end on the basis that this was effectively the two wrestlers who I fell in love with when I was a child were Rey Mysterio Jr. in WCW and Sting in WCW. Those two guys captured my heart and forever changed my media consuming life because they became the cornerstones of entertainment for me on a Friday night. And it just filled me with such an overwhelming sense of joy to see this amazing man who has given so much to the business not go out on his shield, but go out holding his shield high in victory. Now, how we got to that victory, Jesus. What the? This was insane. This was absolutely insane. Now, to say Darby, AJ said this wonderfully in our WhatsApp group. I didn't spoil anything. I just said Darby Allin is a psycho. That's all. And AJ rightfully responded, I would call spoiler, but that literally sums up his entire career. Darby Allin just seems to elevate and elevate and elevate and elevate. The glass spot. That's all I'll say. Oh my God. I don't think I've seen anything that... Well, the thing is, we got a Hangman Page and Swerve Strickland Texas Deathmatch, which is one of the craziest things I've ever seen. But this should have been illegal. I don't have words for it. I'm getting tongue-tied. The glass spot for both Sting and Darby. Sting is in his mid-60s. What are we doing? And he doesn't have the elevation and flight that he used to have once upon a time, but he's still so freaking good. And the kayfabe storytelling that was going on here, they really did get you believing that the EVPs were going to win this one. I thought bringing the Young Bucks in, because I don't think anyone really wanted to see Sting and Darby as a final match. It didn't make sense. This was correct. End as a tag team, being that you are just a tag team. And who better than arguably the best tag team in AEW? A steady, reliable pair of hands, embodied in this case by two dastardly heels, that you know were going to make sure you had the match send-off that you deserved. And was it more spot fest than wrestling? Yeah. But what spots they did. This isn't, this wasn't a wrestling clinic like Ospreay and Takeshita put on, but it was never going to be. Was this the best possible retirement that Sting could have wished for? I think so. The acknowledgement from the entire locker room, retiring as a champion, which is such a wonderful, poetic way to retire. Retiring, having been through a long, spot-fested, spot-riddled match that I think people really are going to remember. And taking us through an emotional, freaking 2.999 kicking outing roller coaster of a ride that perfectly embodied why Tony Khan booked this to be a staccato-esque, a staccato rising crescendo of a pay-per-view. This makes the pay-per-view goated. This is one of my favorite ever moments in professional wrestling history. Not because it's going to resonate through the halls of time as one of the all-time great matches, but if you started watching wrestling in the mid to late 90s on the WCW side, and you're still watching it now, you would have struggled to hold back a tear here, because this is literally your childhood or your early teen years bidding you a fond farewell. Thank you, Sting. Thank you for 38 years that you've put your body through pain for us. It's sad to see you go. I will say you still got it based on the evidence of this match, but you, sir, have earned your rest. I can't thank you enough for everything you've done. Sting, Steve Borden, thank you doesn't begin to describe how much the world of professional wrestling owes to you. I'll miss you. We'll all miss you. From everyone here at the Ministry of Wrestling, this match isn't mid-card. This match isn't awesome. This match isn't Fight Forever. This match is 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome on the basis that it was 38 years of magnificent triumph, culminating in a pure wrestling moment that you can't plan. It was just so organic, so natural, such a beautiful farewell to have his friends, former rivals, his family. It just worked. And for them to be given the extra little mark tip of the hat that you're going to go out holding your shield high. Well done, man. Goated pay-per-view. 7 stars in the Tokyo Dome. Thank you, Sting. Thank you for everything. And with that, I'm going to say thank you guys for watching my elongated review of AEW Revolution 2024. And let me know what you thought of it. What did Sting mean to you? There goes my light. Perfect timing. And let's get some love. If you do love Sting, do be sure to like the video, because one Sting guy to another Sting person, just let's show some love all around, guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and we'll see you very soon.